panel discussion focused on the latest updates on storage solutions for residential application. And for this panel, I'm very pleased to be welcoming Gracia Munganga, who will be moderating the session today. Some of you may have heard her and seen her just a little bit yesterday, but today she's in charge of this panel, and she will be introducing the different speakers to you. But before we do so, I would like to introduce Gracia to you. Gracia has been in the energy industry for a good number of years, a good 10 years experience in the industry. And she's worked with a variety of companies active in the field, like Carbon Trust Africa, Climate Innovation Center, which was a dedicated section at the Innovation Hub, Energy Africa, and Green Cape. And now she's with SustainSolar, which is a company that's presented today, about the containerized solutions. And her expertise is really focused on renewable energy and waste policy, circular economy, application engineering, and you see a few other topics there. So really very, very active in this field now, focused on storage with SustainSolar. And so I'm very pleased to welcome you, Gracia. I'm going to make you co-host of this session so that you can join us and everybody can see you. Gracia, are you with us? Can you turn on your camera maybe and make sure that you're unmuted? Seems I have the wrong Gracia. Let's try again. So she will be with us in a moment. Thanks for bearing with us. There we go. I see you've just joined. Hello, Gracia, are you with us?
Hi, John. How are you doing? Yes, I am.
Wonderful. I think you may turn on your camera so that everybody can join you. There we go. Hello,
there we
welcome.
Go. Hi. Morning, John. Morning, everyone. Thank you.
So I did already give a little introduction about you, so people know a little bit more about your background. And now I would love to hand over the word to you so you can introduce your panelists today and lead the conversation to find out more about the interesting work they're doing on the residential storage side of things.
Perfect. Thanks very much, John. Good morning, everyone. I will skip the introduction. Perhaps 2 words about SustainSolar. Those of you who joined yesterday would have seen my full presentation, but we are based in South Africa and we provide containerized solar PV and battery energy storage systems across the continent. So today's topic is very relevant. So if you look at some of the market studies on the battery energy storage opportunity, the bulk of it will come from residential installations. And we've today, we've got 3 panelists who are actually at the forefront of some of the rural electrification efforts across the continent. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Jeff Schnurr, and please correct me if I get your surname wrong. So Jeff is the CEO of Jaza Energy. He comes with 15 years of experience in environmental protection and energy. Has been involved in various volunteering and advocacy activities, and has been named one of Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year in 2015. He's currently leading what I believe is innovation in terms of business model, both energy and storage as a service across a number of markets. So shortly we'll hear from him about some of the activities and projects that he's currently leading on the continent. The next speaker that we have is, I'm just waiting for correct, is Arnaud Otjacques. And apologies again if I get the pronunciation wrong. Arnaud is currently the new business director for GoShop, but he also describes himself as a serial entrepreneur. He comes with more or less 10 years experience in the DRC, specifically in energy and international trade. GoShop has 30 years of experience working across the DRC. And so a lot of the insight from having been one of the pioneers really in the sector in the DRC would be invaluable for our discussion. He's an entrepreneur at heart with multiple interests across both restorations, with a number of initiatives in Goma, Eastern DRC. Our next speaker would then be Fabien Leterrier, who is the mini-grid technical and procurement manager at ENGIE, Energy Access. Fabien comes with 12-year experience in energy. From his professional experience, he previously was an operation and maintenance manager at a nuclear plant and has made a career switch. He's currently focusing on a lot of the technical due diligence of ENGIE, Energy Access portfolio across the continent. And welcome, Fabien. We look forward to having your insight as one of the largest developers across the continent. Without further ado, before we delve into questions for the panelists, my request would be to have the panelists switch on their cameras. So welcome, Jeff. Welcome, Fabien, and welcome, Arnaud. Thanks very much. So for the rest of the audience, how this will work is we have about 30 to 40 minutes. I've got a set of questions that I will pose to our esteemed panelists. And the rest of the 20 minutes will open up questions and answers to the floor. So please, I encourage you to use the Q&A chat box to submit your questions. The AFSIA team is also monitoring LinkedIn very closely. So if there are any questions that are posted on LinkedIn, it will be passed via this channel. So let me just say my very first question, and it's also an opportunity for panelists to introduce themselves. I would say, what would be the latest initiatives and projects that you are currently working with? And that really is an open question to cover, what are the markets that you are focusing on based on your company strategy, or project sizes, especially when it comes to residential storage, and your technology of choices based on your experience and some of the lessons learned. There's no specific order, but maybe just because we're not sitting next to each other, my suggestion, I'll use clockwise based on my screen. So it's Jeff, Fabien, and then Arnaud.
Thanks, Gracia, for the introduction. So my name is Jeff Schnurr, the CEO of a company called Jaza. And what we do is we build basically shops that we call hubs that are manufactured in market. And then we put panels on the roof, charge batteries that our customers come and rent. And then they take the batteries home and plug them in for home lighting. So we currently have around 90 locations across 2 markets, Tanzania and Nigeria. And we power around 8,000 homes. And last month we did our 1,000,000th battery swap. So I think what's innovative about this model, which some of the mini grid players would probably recognize, is largely our customers are the transmission. So we still have a central location, and then our customers are actually coming to us very similar to how they would have purchased kerosene. In our launch market, kerosene was sort of one of the predominant home lighting solutions for our target customer. So you're just coming to a shop, paying and taking the battery and carrying that home. And I think the innovation in this model is really trying to get the right sizing, the right fit, understand the customer needs. And for us, our customer base is typically in the segment that earns less than $2 a day. And that's largely why the grid hasn't been able to serve them, because if a grid connection costs $2,300, $2,500, and then that customer still has the same capital or wallet share that they're going to use to spend on their energy solution, those economics are really hard to make work. So what we've tried to do is pair the solution with the right size and build sort of the mini infrastructure, the mini utility play that pairs with what our customers are able to spend on the service, but still meets all of their energy needs directly in their community. So right now, I'm actually in Nigeria now, and this is kind of what I'm most excited about, because we launched our service in 2017 in Tanzania and really worked through like several iterations on what's the right battery size, what's the right way to manage these locations, because they're very rural. Truly is last mile, where if you were to come from South Africa, you'd be taking a couple of flights, a bus ride, 2-hour car drive, and then you'd arrive at a Jaza hub. So for us, it was really important to work through the right structure to be able to deliver our service, as well as what happens between the hub and our customer, and then our customer in their home. And once we feel like now that we've got a model with positive operating margins in that launch market, we then went to Nigeria, which is a very different market than Tanzania, very different problem, where in Tanzania it would be typically inability to pay or affordability. In Nigeria, there's a whole host of different challenges around does the grid work or deliver the service? What solutions are available? Solar isn't as prominent in this market. And then we've just launched our first 6 locations over the last 5 months here. And now we're working to scale up to 400 locations over the next 24 months, which will serve 150,000 people, or 150,000 households. So that's currently what we're head down on.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Really interesting lessons, especially you mentioned size and being able to copy the model of the diesel shop, central hub location, etc., and working through the community. So before we get into further discussion, let me hand over to Fabien just to hear from him about some of the latest initiatives that he's currently working on.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Fabien. I'm the technical manager for Minigrid. For ENGIE. So ENGIE in Africa, maybe in a nutshell, now we are called ENGIE Energy Access, with 2 main businesses. One is producing and distributing solar on system, so from 20 to, I would say, 200 watt. So 1 solar panel, 1 battery, and a DC component that you can plug in. Which is a mature and competitive market. And the second business, my business, actually, is a mini grid. So different business model, because we built the mini grid, we operate them, and then we own also the mini grid during all the life of the mini grid, around 20 years. And yeah, we built mini grids mainly to support productive usage in villages, which is, we think, a huge potential market, not mature yet, but which is coming. So for that, we are in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Benin, Nigeria, and Uganda as well, where we just launched 3 new mini grids. So yeah, I've been busy for your first question. I've been busy last month with those 3 mini grid to launch, around 100 kilowatt peak for 2 of them, and 1 big in Uganda on Lolwe Island, which is a 600 kilowatt peak generation unit with medium voltage distribution network. And when we are operating, which is quite new for us, a productive hub where we produce ice, water also with a purifier, and we also are making fish drying for the fishermen. So, and yeah, we are trying to focus these productive usages there, also to try to consume this energy that is almost free during the day. So yeah, it was a big challenge for us, and because Uganda, Benin, and Nigeria were also 3 new countries for us. We were also before in Tanzania and Zambia. So yeah, new countries, new teams, new regulation to deal with. Yeah.
Thank you, Fabien. I think the Lolwe project is well known for those that are kind of following closely the mini-grid developments in Uganda. And you've highlighted something really important and very topical, which is productive uses of energy. Energy, as energy itself is not the end, it's really a sort of vector for social and economic development in the community. So I'm sure there's lots of interesting lessons learned there about making sure that the additional productive uses of energy/businesses would be successful in the community as well. Good. So last but definitely not least, let's hand over to Arnaud from GoShop in the DRC.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Arnaud Otjacques. I'm one of the directors of GoShop. GoShop is a family business. GoShop has started in Eastern Congo 40 years ago. And since 2007, we started to do solar. So we are located, we have 6 offices and warehouses across DRC, which would be Bunia, Goma, Bukavu, Kalemi, Lubumbashi, and Kinshasa. And we have technicians in mostly all the cities in the east of Eastern Congo, from Kisangani to Kalemi. Our main business is energy supply, so we don't only do solar, we do as well diesel generators. That's how we started in the business 40 years ago. Now our main business is solar and renewable. So we are the representative, or like the official dealers of Victron Energy, Fronius, Indelec, or Lawrence, and for the battery parts we deal with BYD for the region. We do systems from plug and like Pico Solar. We work with the Greenlight Planets for Pico Solar, which is not our main market. We just do it a little bit, but mostly we do residential, commercial, for banking. We do many hospitals. We work with minings, we work with the governments, and we have our own microgrids, but we build as well microgrids for companies that are outside as an EPC. Our main initiative today is that we create our own plug-and-play system for residential and commercial. So for banks, basically we build our own boxes where inside the box you will find all the protections, you will find the MPPT, the controller for the Victron systems, you will have the inverter charger, etc., etc. All those boxes are pre-mounted and are created and pre-mounted in one of the GoShop offices. Then they are tested before we can send them to sites. So it allows our clients to, our technicians and our clients, because we work as well with a big network of resellers. As we are the official distributors of some of the brands, we have like a network of distributors that buy from us and install themselves, so that we train. But basically, our boxes, once they are ready at GoShop, they are shipped to sites. The technicians just have to come and plug the panels on the MC4, and at the bottom you have the cables for the batteries. It's very easy, everything. So you don't have a surprise when you arrive to sites. Everything has been configured. And the innovation in those boxes is that we set up a really high level of alarms. So for customers like banks, especially banks for ATMs or like the backup systems, if someone opens the door of those boxes, we will receive directly an alarm, and the clients will receive it too. So it allows them to have a total control, know what is happening. We can control the fuel tank of the generators as backup. We can control the water tank for microgrids. So yeah, it's like one of the innovations that we are doing. And so we create the boxes can start at a few kVA. So with the smaller Victrons, so 500 or 800 VA, and we do as well big system, microgrids or system for minings, which will go into the few thousands kVA. Yeah, 1,000 kVA, sorry, hundreds kVA.
Okay.
Still with Victron. Yeah.
No, thanks a lot, Arnaud. And just you've touched on something that is very relevant for where we are operating in Sub-Saharan Africa. Some of the concerns around security, theft, etc., of the assets that a lot of the private sector owners, such as banks or small CNI installation, would be worried about. And so you've had to address that concern by essentially integrating security and sensors into your system. It's quite a nice transition into the next question that I had, and that's when you look at the storage market opportunities on the continent. South Africa is slightly different from the rest of the continent, but the bulk of that will be from residential installation, and residential installations are actually mini grids. So it's rural electrification, peri-urban installation, etc. Let me put this out to the panel, right? What would you say are the biggest sort of challenges that the industry is currently facing in your view? Maybe let's go with two or three as a starting point. I don't want to prescribe any order, so anyone that wants to speak first. Okay, I'll pick one. So Jeff, maybe your perspective, I'm sure, would be quite unique.
Yeah, I think for us, the challenge is like, at the sector level, I think, kind of supply chains right now are one of the bigger challenges that we're having that I think probably some of my colleagues on the panel are also dealing with, just because there's a lot of lithium ion demand or battery demand into electric vehicles currently, shortages projected, and then also just shipping lines and getting product into our markets would be a challenge. And I'd say for us at the customer level, that's probably a little bit more unique. On the residential side, given the segment that we serve and the customers we serve, is actually the sizing of our systems. So one of the biggest challenges that we had when we launched is trying to understand how big the battery needed to be for our customers. For a lot of our customers, it was the first time they had, a sort of not just a renewable energy solution, but an energy solution. In Tanzania, a lot of our customers were going from kerosene to lighting up their homes and charging phones and looking at small appliances for the first time. So when we launched, we kind of thought, well, and our customers also have to come back to us, right? So it's like there's a point where it has to last a certain amount of time. And we sized the system to try and last our battery to last 7 days. And what we found is the kind of customer base split, like 20% would kind of use that battery every 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. And then a lot of our customers would make that battery last 20, 30 days. So the challenge became, how do you price it? And when we looked at the bulk of our customers, they were saying, well, the battery has to last longer. And we kept trying to find the right transaction cost. So it would be the equivalent of 3-4 days of household income for that battery. And people keep saying, make this battery last longer. It needs to last longer. And we were looking, saying, well, I mean, it's lasting 20 days. What, 30 days, 60 days? What's the transaction cost going to be? And almost 100% of the feedback was this battery needs to last longer. And with kind of sitting with this, I realized what customers were actually saying was it's too expensive. So in their mind, they were thinking for the value, if it lasts 20 days or 30 days, it needs to last even more. just based on the fact that they were spending 5-6 times what they were earning daily when they were making that single transaction. And when we looked at the data, we realized the majority of our customers were only using 20 watt hours a day. So we actually made the battery smaller, which was completely counter to all the customer feedback. We introduced a 60 watt hour battery with a 3-day timer and made the transaction like a fraction of what it was. And then our customer adoption went from 10 new households a month to 100. Like it took off. So the biggest challenge for us was just getting the size right and understanding what our customers were actually saying, because on the technical side, you're just thinking watt hours and output and inputs and how the solution works. And our customers, like they wanted the service, they wanted light in their home. So what we kind of settled on, the problem that we're actually solving is trying to provide what people want, when they want, at a price they can afford. And we ended up making that battery smaller and almost selling it the same way that you would get, toothpaste for a day in our market or washing powder for a day or two, and just making the smallest increment of energy that wasn't inconvenient for our customers to come back to us every 3 days, and then pricing it accordingly. So on the sizing and business model side in our sector for the residential space, that was the real breakthrough for us, is looking at the data and saying, okay, what are people saying? What do they mean and listening to them? Because they were just saying, like, for the money I'm spending compared to what do I earn, I need more value. We found a way to give them that value through the right amount of energy that they were using daily based on what we'd seen on our end from their consumption.
Thanks very much, Jeff. I think you've touched on two really important issues, which is getting the size right, and that's directly linked with the CapEx, and also the business model, which is how much people are willing to pay for your services. You are dealing almost at the pico level or at the micro level. It would be interesting to hear the lessons learned from Fabien, who is currently rolling out, at the very least from a mini-grid perspective, multiple of the systems, and the scale of that issue, getting the size right from the onset and designing the capacity of your storage, and versus getting, essentially the business model based on the tariff, which might be regulated at the country level as well, to get the insights from Fabien. So over to you, Fabien.
Yeah, thank you. For us, I think the biggest challenge for the next years will be all the value chain, from the regulation frameworks to the local contractors for the construction. We think that all the value chain is not ready yet. So we can say that the process is still a bit slow to develop mini grid. But to come back on maybe storage, if we talk about batteries, we think that the technology is well mastered now. Both lead carbon and lithium batteries are well integrated by power electronics, manufacturers. The main topic is about cost of batteries, and what Jeff just mentioned is really correct. We have several ways to try to decrease this cost. First is to size the batteries correctly and not to oversize. We have the same case, and it is not an easy thing to size a battery when you don't know what will be the consumption, because like he mentioned, it is the first time the electricity will come. So how to know what will be the demand, the future demand? It's really one of our biggest challenge. And so for that, we are trying to focus on modularity. We think that we can start small in terms of capacity and being able to expand easily later. But all the technologies are not able we are not able to do that with all manufacturers. The idea is really to standardize and to be able to expand if we see that one of the other villages is consuming more than expected, especially during the night. So we are trying to anticipate that in our design, in generation unit, in terms of space, cabling, air conditioning. We are trying to prepare everything to be able to add the right level amount of battery later if needed. Yeah, that is. We are also trying to decrease the battery capacity by focusing on productive usages during the day, with maybe sometimes tariff incentive, or also because we will try to help and to launch new businesses. I think the battery charging station is one of our also ideas for the future. The idea also is to take the energy when it is available during the day, and we know that with our actual mini grid, we know that we have excess energy during the day, because we haven't reached yet the demand, so we have excess energy, and for that we are looking at maybe batteries, so mobile batteries that we could recharge during the day and rent. Exactly the model of Jeff. So this is interesting to be in contact today, and especially also because our mini grid, usually the distribution network is covering the center of the village, and then we see that there is no point to go further for 1 or 2 houses. So for that, we need to provide a solution. So either a solar home system, which can be a bit small because it's still DC current and small appliances, or maybe a battery box that we could rent. So yeah, this is what we are looking at. We are also exploring other technology in terms of storage, like compressed air, hydrogen, heat storage. We are our last study on that showed that either the technology are not mature enough, especially to go in remote area like we are working. We don't want to place prototype too far away, or they are not cost effective yet, especially for hydrogen, for example. So yeah, this is how we try to compensate the cost of energy. And the last thing is all our sites are hybrid, so we still use genset, diesel genset for backup and for also rainy season. So diesel is still representing for us 20% of the energy produced during 1 year. So yeah, this is the 80-20 is our best compromise now so far, given the price of fuel. And it allows us to decrease a bit the capacity of the battery. Yeah.
No, thanks very much, Fabien. You've touched on something that Jeff has mentioned, and something that all of us at the moment are suffering from. It's the disruption in the global supply chain, and the ability to actually get the equipment on time and help our clients, such as potentially yourselves and other developers, meet the strict project development timeline. So that's something that's keeping all of us awake at the moment. I'm turning to Arnaud at the moment. I mean, you operate in quite a particular market. I think the DRC at the moment is on the priority list of many electrification programs, etc., just based on the sheer number of the unelectrified population, but also a lot of the recent efforts by the current administration, right, to drive electrification efforts. It would be interesting to hear from your perspective, just based on the last 30 years, what you believe is the biggest industry challenge.
So in Congo, we have many challenges. Well, just to, we face, so for rural electrification through our methods, we have exactly the same issues as Fabien and Jeff. So what we are doing as well is to favorize people to use daytime energy, so it's cheaper. We push a lot for productive use, so they can use a grinder, make ice, things like that. So we can reduce to the maximum the energy storage. in the lithium batteries, which allow us to reduce the investment in the microgrids and to have a faster return on investment. And as Fabien, we still have generator components, which will turn on maybe 1 or 2 hours at night to allow the batteries to last until 7 a.m. when the sun rises up. So it's about the same challenges in terms of rural electrification. But now, mentioning DRC, we have many challenges. One is that there is no infrastructure. So it's really difficult to ship things outside of the main city. So you have the border towns like Goma in the east, Bunia, Goma, or Beni, and then you will have Bukavu, and then you go to Kalemi, Lubumbashi, and Kinshasa. But if you want to go in country, it's you have to fly everything. Most likely there's no roads, or if there are roads, it takes up to 6 weeks or sometimes more to do like 200 kilometers. So in the east, we have a lot of insecurity. So the roads are dangerous. So you need to wait for a convoy of MONUSCO or like security forces. So that's one of the main issues for us is the infrastructure and the difficulty as well to access for our staff. It's always a crazy story for them to reach a site. They have to take a car, a plane, then a car, then a boat, and a bike, and whatever. It takes days. So yeah, that's one of the main challenges. And as well, another challenge is that the government has a big drive to electrify the country through microgrids, and they want to do it really fast now. The issue with DRC is that the structure in place is they are not ready. I think, or my take is that it takes too long for documents of paperwork. They are not ready, and what Kinshasa says is not the same as what the provincial level say. So you will always hit a wall somewhere because the provincial level will tell you, no, you have to do this and this. Then you go to Kinshasa, to the Ministry of Energy, then they tell you, no, it's not supposed to be like this. We made it easier, you just need one letter. But then the provincial level says, oh, well, but Kinshasa didn't notify us. So anyway, so it's back and forth, and it's, well, it's DRC. So I think in terms of paperwork, it's a bit complicated at the moment. I know they are putting a lot of effort to make it better and easier. Let's see if they will succeed fast. And as well, there's another issue that DRC, I think since 2017 or 18, they are supposed to be exemption on solar energy.
Sorry, Arnaud, sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind just increasing the volume on your end? I don't know if it's just me, but you are a bit fainted.
Of my mic?
That's perfect. Yeah, you're back on there.
That's better. Okay, I'll just go close to the screen.
Okay.
Sorry. No, so I was saying that, yeah, so paper is, I think it's a challenge. What else? Yeah, so basically for importing as well, DRC is supposed to be exempted of solar energy imports, but it's not applied. So I think it was from 2017 or 18 that it was supposed to be tax-free, but the border points, they are not applying it. So it's another challenge as well for DRC. So one person will manage to import without taxes, the other one will have a big problem. So there's some work to be done there. And another challenge that we have compared to maybe like Kenya, Tanzania, or South Africa is that we are in countries and the freight charges to DRC are crazy. So if your container stops in Kigali, for example, in Rwanda, you'll pay half the price that if it goes 100 kilometers further to the Goma border. If the truck crosses the Goma border, you'd pay twice the price of the truck. And if you go to the west and you go to Matadi, up to Kinshasa is the most expensive road, or like I think in the world. A container of 40 foot would cost you up to $20,000 to bring it up to Kinshasa. So those are the main challenges, I think, in terms of rural electrification in DRC. Maybe another challenge that I will, or maybe that would be for further questions. So yeah, no, fine.
No, thanks very much, Arnaud. And I think that having been sort of one of the pioneers in this space in the DRC, your on-the-ground experience is very valuable. So, and you've touched on, actually, you've introduced the next question, which is about the fact that, you know, a lot of these projects for successful implementation requires a level of community buy-in and a level of community ownership. And community in this sense could be the little village, but it could also be what you mentioned at the moment at a provincial level. So at the end of the day, you know, SDG 7 and or electrification is about socioeconomic development. So I'm putting back the question to the panel, and I'd like to hear your experience with getting the community buy-in and getting the community to own the project. Here, I might actually put Fabien, I'll switch up the order. I might put Fabien on the spot as the first speaker, just to hear, because you've done anything from solar home systems all the way to large mini grids currently. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's true. Community engagement, it's a big part of our job. Also, especially because with mini grids, we would say when we go to a village and build a mini grid, the whole asset is relying on the community adoption. If it's not adopted, so you don't sell electricity, and so your asset is lost. So yeah, so for that, from the village identification with our field agent to assess the future demand, to find the land to build the generation unit. We need a really transparent approach with the village leaders or other kind of people. But we have several ideas and that we are trying to put in place. But for example, for every mini grid that we built, we always hire a local operator, which is 100% of his time on site. He is really the link between the community and us. And us, when I say us, all the ENGIE team in the country or in the global team. He is as well the technical guy, but also the commercial guys that can help and explain how, why we have some shutdown sometime, why we explain everything about tariff, about connection fees, but we think that is really key for the community engagement to have someone local on site during the life of the project. Yeah, that I can say on that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fabien. So community ownership, at the moment, the strategy has really been to find that the leader, right? The one person that would then rally the rest of the community and ensure success. And in your case, it's the person that looks after the mini grid, but also the person that looks after the mini grid and maybe the infrastructure around ensuring that your service, which is electricity, the uptake keeps on increasing as well. So maybe let me turn over to Jeff. I'm pretty sure that we've got very interesting lessons from trying to set up these hubs and various shops across Tanzania.
Yeah, thanks. So I think kind of when we get to the community level, I'd kind of like to start with the why, like we do what we do. And I'm sure many of you have seen like the nighttime satellite images of the continent where like the rest of the world is lit up. And then, you know, you see sub-Saharan Africa and it's not. So when we kind of first started this business, we were thinking like, kind of why not? Doesn't really make sense, right? Like the technology exists, the cost of solar is coming down. The capital is there. Sometimes it's harder to source than other times, but there's been lots of capital commitments to this problem. And the last one, we were like, and the people are there. Like the talent is there. We see it day in and day out. So when we approached, you know, our first location and built just, you know, a pilot at the time, we actually hired two women to run these locations. And then, you know, the second location, the third location, we just kept hiring women that would come and interview for the position. And then we started kind of posting job ads in these communities saying like women only. And it kind of started shifting the conversation where you'd have 30, 40 women show up for an interview to work for Jaza, and they'd be cheering on each other when their name was called to go interview. And it sort of became our why. And there was originally some pushback at the community level, but then it just kind of became the way things are done. So our customers, like you drive through a location where there's 30, 40 Jaza shops, Jaza hubs, it's just, they're just run by women. That's just the way it is. So now the job title for the women that run our hubs is the Jaza Star. And their mission is to put stars on the map, and they go and they light up their community. And we say, like at Jaza, you'll be able to see our work from space when we're done. And in terms of internally, we're actually an employee-centric company, not a customer-centric company. And we say internally, the Jaza Star is the most important person in the Jazaverse, and everyone in the company works in service of her. So when you come to a hub, if you're a Jaza employee, the first thing you do is you greet the Jaza Star, you talk to her about her challenges and solve her challenges, because she's the one delivering our service. And then what we kind of get in that community, community integration, from day one, we're a part of the community. Like the women that run our locations, the Jaza Stars that serve our customers are so ingrained in their community anyways. And then it also changes their profile. Like I was walking with a Jaza Star in her community here in Nigeria, and she was pointing out and saying like, see how all the people look at me? Before they wouldn't even see me. And now everyone here respects me because of what I do at Jaza. And when you make that shift and you build that into your model, I think you're in that community from day one.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Really almost heartwarming story and inspirational about essentially, and that's also become quite a relevant topic, gender mainstreaming in energy access programs, and essentially the critical role that the program makes not only in sort of the rollout of the programs, but also just in terms of society acceptance, right? Women traditionally, depending on where you find yourself on the continent, women do play quite an important role in traditional society. So I'll look at, and I'm not saying that because I'm a woman, I think it's a fact. So I'm looking at Arnaud at the moment, and I'd like to hear from you about, you've spoken about some of the challenges, especially just accessing remote areas for installing the systems. What has been some of the strategies that you've implemented to gain community acceptance, ownership as well?
All right, so we have our approach is a bit different from what you see microgrids coming up here and there. So basically, we started to do microgrids because we wanted to change the mentality of the donors and of the big organizations. Because in most cases, what we saw is that people speak really well in the US, in Europe, and blah, 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 and then they manage to get a lot of cash, and then they decide to do microgrids wherever in Africa to help the poor African. But at the end of the day, the poor Africans still buy the electricity at a really, really high price because those companies, they have high OPEX. But when they receive the money or the grants or whatever, they already pay themselves. And in most cases, take money in their pocket than what the project costs, right? Because they have to pay the staff and whatever. So basically, when we saw that and we were hired to do those projects, to do those as an EPC, so to build and to provide whatever, to connect people. And we saw the amount of money that we build and the amount of money the companies were receiving and the amount of money people are paying every month. Well, in a way, we're quite, if I can say, is discussed by the whole thing around microgrids. So we decided to do microgrids in end-to-end with communities. So basically what we do is we choose a community, we go see them, we sit with them, and we create a company together. So the community will elect few people, okay, that will be part of the company. And what we do is we go to those communities and we drop, if in this case it's a container, we drop the all-in-one solution with water, refrigeration, internet, and electricity in the middle of the village, and we don't even put a fence on it. Like, it's totally open, and we train the community to manage it. We don't want to bring people from outside to come and manage that site. The money needs to stay in the village. So basically what we do is we take a number of anyone in the community that wants to learn, to be trained as an electrician, as an engineer, or that want to deal with the water, whatever. Like, we take them, we trade them, and the best one will be elected by the community to be employed by this community enterprise, and they will sell the electricity, they will maintain the system, and so on. So this allows us to keep a really low OPEX. It allows the community to be part of the system, to be owner of the system. So they have a bigger, if someone, we have cases where someone tried to, at a clinic, the lady, there was a new head of clinic, whatever, and she didn't want to pay for the electricity. She thought it was supposed to be free for the clinic. So basically she bypassed the energy meter. So instead of us going to confront the lady, what we did is we called a community meeting, and we sat with the community and said, okay, this is what's happening. What do we do? And themselves, they will sort it out. They are becoming their own police. They are setting the rules. We let them set up the price of electricity, the price of water, for them, of what they will be allowed, like what capacity to buy. We let them decide this. So it allows us to have like one of our microgrids has been installed for a bit more than a year now. We never had any single problem in terms of like stealing, theft, or destroying the materials or anything like this. And it's all managed by the community. And it really allows the OPEX to go down. You don't need to ask like crazy amount of money to grantees or like to people. I mean, yeah. So we did it. We are doing it to try to really focus on the development and not focus on the money and paying ourselves. As I said, we sell solutions. We stock. We have a huge stock. We have 6 MWh of lithium in Congo. We have 5 megawatt peak of solar panels. Like, we have a really big stock in DRC. So, I mean, we can make our money elsewhere. With the microgrids, we really want to make the communities to grow. And we really want to show that there is a way you can bring development to electric utilities to a community without paying like millions of dollars into companies that will pay themselves first. And one thing that is really important for us as well is that we don't want to take away any kind of business they can do themselves. We don't want to take it away. So we are against buying meals and renting them out to the population, or buying like ice cube machines and selling the ice. These kind of things needs to be part, if you want to do development, to us at least, it needs to be the community. Someone in the community, there's always someone with ideas, and we say, okay, no, I would buy that ice cube machine and I would make my money. So the money will stay and people will grow in that community, and that's how you bring development. We see a lot, you probably see it a lot as well. It's like there's a lot of microgrids company, they come and then they will come and set up like industrial parks, but they own it. And why do they own it? Because they will get back their money like this. But then you take away all opportunities from a village. I mean, not all, but many. So yeah, that's our approach. We really want to work hand in hand with communities.
Okay. Thanks very much, Arnaud. We are quickly running out of time in about 5 minutes. Luckily, I think that the last question was in line with 2 or 3 questions that have been raised from the audience, and that has to do with end-of-life management of particularly the batteries. So I think as an industry, the energy access industry has really focused on number of connections, rightfully so. We are miles away from meeting, SDG 7 and universal access. But perhaps in your opinion, and I'm putting Jeff and Fabien here on the spot, End of life management, is it an opportunity, yes or no? That's the first question. And then the second one would be, in your opinion, and just based on the limited infrastructure, particularly across the continent, just even in, in urban settings and cities where urban waste is not necessarily managed, what would be your opinion? How would we go about handling end of life management for these large rollout programs? Over to you, Fabien.
Yeah. Battery end of life is a topic within ENGIE. So on the solar home system side, which is really mature with products that have been also already replaced. So we have a clear process for the end of life, especially for panel we know how to do. For batteries, it depends of the technology. When we go for lead carbon, for us the process is very clear. We know we have several partners in each countries that deal with the battery end of life. But yeah, this is really something that it is outside of our scope. So we deal with some partners which seems reliable, and so yeah. For the lithium, it is a bit different. We haven't found in every country good partners so far. That is also why we are a bit reluctant for lithium batteries for our mini grid. But we think it will come, because also it's we can say new technology. So I think all the value chain will come at one moment. So far, what we do is we have to send back to Europe to some companies the lithium batteries. But yeah, we are trying to manage it properly. But yeah, also, so there is the end of life. But what we are trying to do, of course, as all people I think here, we are trying to optimize the duration of battery life. So first, by trying to respect all the parameters, temperature, for example, depth of discharge every day, that can optimize and reduce the number of replacements that we'll have to do during the life of the project. But yeah, it is still challenging. We have some parameters that are automatically monitored. But for example, when we talk about depth of discharge, we see it is complicated to manage that, because we know when village demand is growing and our generation unit become a bit small, the local operator can always be tempted to go a bit further into the battery depth of discharge to supply energy to his customer, and because he is really the person who is in front of the customer. So yeah. And we see that it can be sometimes a source of damage. So yeah, both aspects. We are trying to manage the end of life, but also to optimize and to use them longer than schedule or than datasheet can say. So yeah, our main ways to reduce recycling.
And thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was saying thank you very much, Fabien. So you've spoken about essentially leveraging where possible local partnerships, right, for your solar home systems, and that's a process that's really well established, but also optimizing the life of the assets by managing the point as well. So I'd like to hear from Jeff. I imagine just the logistics of running an operation like that for, I don't know, the millionth, you mentioned you eat your millionth factory. What has been your experience and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I know we're at time, so I'll just kind of be brief, but I think the advantage that we have is our batteries come back to us. So it's not like the solar home system where you've got high cost of customer acquisition and then the same cost for battery collection. Our model is designed that our customers bring those batteries back. And I think in terms of the opportunity, it is really just in local production of the batteries themselves, because at scale, you realize how many batteries are being, manufactured in China, shipped to the continent. We heard from Arnaud about his cost of shipping probably being 5x the cost of the good itself to begin with. And it's the minerals are mined here, shipped elsewhere, shipped back, and then like Fabien said, then shipped to Europe for recycling. So I think the opportunity is really in production and the recycling facilities, because a lot of those batteries can become new batteries at end of life.
Thank you very much, Jeff. There's a lot of comments. I think, Jeff, there was a lady that's interested in understanding what would be the model to bring that into a country. And I think there would be, just to the audience, there will be the opportunity to engage further with the speakers. If you do not have their contact details, I think that John from APSIA can facilitate that fairly easily. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So if that's okay with everyone, I'll probably just close the session right now. Please allow me to thank the panelists. I don't know, I hope that was the case for everyone, but was really fruitful and insightful discussions. Just congratulating our panelists on the good work that they're doing across the continent, and also thanking APSIA for providing this platform as well. Unless there's any last closing words from the panelists, then I say thank you and looking forward to engaging further.